We are on the line this morning about a really, really interesting topic because we've talked with our local school administrators about this, and so it's good to get the perspective of James Talerico Jr. And Jim is a certified management consultant and the president of the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of the Institute of Management Consultants, and we're talking today about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT in particular. Our conversation is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people, and I guarantee you this is an actual person and not a bot that I'm talking to. That's a good way to start it, isn't it, Jim? Just to make sure that you know.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today, Todd.
It is our pleasure to have you. We've talked with our local school administrators about the problems that they anticipate and that now some are seeing with ChatGPT and others of that nature. Artificial intelligence actually doing the work for the school students. Now, we're talking from a college perspective with you here this morning, but it also translates to younger folks in schools as well. And it is a problem, isn't it?
It's a big problem. It's at a dishonesty in colleges at an all-time high, and AI just exacerbates that problem. But I have a unique perspective from one of our members, and she's a professor at the University of Phoenix. And let me tell you what's happening there. So at the beginning of this semester, they came out with an AI policy, and it's around two main things: making sure that you properly quote work and not copying others' work. And so what happens is when she's grading papers, if she suspects plagiarism, she gives that student a 0 and gives them an opportunity to rewrite the paper. If the student doesn't rewrite the paper, then the case goes to a committee at the University of Phoenix, and they rule on it. And if the student is found to have plagiarized, then what happens to them is they get a letter in their file. They have to take a course about plagiarism and properly citing one's work. And if it happens a second time, they're just expelled.
Those are good steps to take, but they're steps that obviously teachers never anticipated that they would have to do.
True, and also this is a living, breathing system, so it's always changing. I don't know if you heard on the news this morning, there's a version of ChatGPT that's going to be rolled out where it's going to actually talk to you.
Yeah.
And so it's a moving target, but right now I think they have a good system in place. And you see in society, governments and institutions, they're all coming out and creating these AI policies. I think the problem is really a societal one. Cheating has always been around, and my hope is that with new tools to fight it, that ultimately it makes us better human beings.
Do you see in the future a lot more in-class work and a lot more of having to learn how to actually write with pencil and paper?
Yeah, sure. So schools are going to react to the problem, and to the extent to which they can't manage it, they're going to rely on other ways to make sure that the student isn't cheating.
Now, one of the things about it is that you said it yourself. You know, cheating's been going on forever, and kids don't know the harm that they're doing to themselves by not actually working on the material, learning the material, and the benefits of having the knowledge base itself. They're just trying to get by. They're trying to pass the test. That's what they're all about, and so blaming them really isn't the best and first step we should take.
No, but we need to take a leadership role, and as adults explain to these children that they're doing themselves a disservice, because if they don't learn to think creatively and critically, when they go out in the real world, they're going to suffer problems.
Yeah, indeed they are. And it is really an ethics problem, isn't it?
I think it comes down to an ethics problem. I think it comes down to the home. You know, I grew up in the 60s, and while the 60s didn't have it right exactly, there were a lot of good things that were done to encourage people to make sure that they're ethical.
The long-term effects, of course, on a student's life is one thing, but when they take that sort of lack of knowledge and ways to get around the system into their business lives, then that can have a really detrimental effect on the way we do business too.
I think so. And, I think a lot of depression in the world today is people not meeting expectations. And if they're taking shortcuts and then they find that they fail short in society, the problem goes back to the very beginning.
And a lot of the television and movie writers' strike talk has been really centered around the fact of authors getting credit for their work and not being beat out by AI.
That's right, and so it's a huge problem. Look, without taking a political side, just look at what's happening in politics right now. We see people getting away with all types of crimes, and there's no consequences. And so, we have a big challenge on our hand there.
Yeah, Jim, we really do. And it sort of makes you point ahead to, well, what's coming next? I don't think anybody anticipated that that the systems that we have in this world, the digital systems, the electronic systems, would accelerate so quickly and much more quickly than we were prepared for. And that's a big part of the problem as well. We didn't have the foresight to see where it all leads.
Right. But people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos, they're all cautiously optimistic. So I agree with you. We have some catching up to do. But in the end, like I said, I hope it makes us better human beings because they have better systems for people to learn and at the same time to manage the problem of cheating.
Is it a moving target, Jim, when we think about the balance between what technology can do, how it can benefit us, and how it can harm us?
Yeah, it is. In fact, I saw a couple weeks ago a software program for students where they can put their plagiarized paper in the computer, and it'll give them tips for avoiding being caught for plagiarism.
Yeah, so I guess they are learning. It's just they're not learning what we want them to learn, and that's a major problem. My son is a teacher of middle school and high school students, and he has not struggled with the problem. He's found some creative ways to approach it as well, and he's got some examples taped on the door of his classroom of where students have been caught inserting AI into their answers, and it teachers with a trained eye can do it, but the problem is who has the time to do it, and students can take advantage of the fact that it's such a rushed society in which we live.
Right. People spend a lot of time trying to get around rules, and you can see that all throughout society. They really need just to focus their energies on doing the right thing.
So, Jim, what are some of the steps that you recommend be taken besides what we heard about what Phoenix is doing?
Yeah, so, to talk about what Phoenix is doing, because I think other institutions can replicate this, what you want to do is you want to create a team. You want them to make sure they have the right skills, knowledge, and experience. And they have to have skill sets in different areas, IT, ethics, legal compliance. And they need to create policies. They need to create benchmarks or standards. They have to create tools and learning opportunities for people. Look at their gap. Look at key performing metrics and continually trying to improve.
Do you think that would be done easier on an educational, institutional level or in a business setting?
Well, I think it's the same process, but interestingly, I've talked to ethics in business, and both employees and employees, the statistics around those, they're also lying back and forth to each other. It's a huge problem from an employer perspective, where I think over 70-80% of people routinely lie in the workplace.
Yeah, well, it's going to take a while for us to get a handle on it. I think if we were to go back a year or especially 2 years, we would never have anticipated that this would become the problem that it is so very, very quickly. Jim Talerico, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.